So here's what you kind of get. Oh, and you put your GEDCOM in. So let me do 7, which is our Gann DNA. And I want to do maternal. So I can select. Now this is by chromosome. So here are all of the segments and with matches that I've identified our most recent common ancestor. So I've got Janice and Ogia's mom, and Ogia's mom comes from Amanda Post, and that comes from Eliza Jane. Teresa's in here, Tom's mother's in here, Dan's in here, one of the Pennies is in here. You kind of recognize these names as our family names. Tom, and then this Al Gann, I don't know, and I think that might be an Alabama Gann. I think that might be Alabama.
It's my sister.
It's your sister?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Audrey.
Isn't that funny? I match your sister, but I don't match you.
Yeah.
That's weird. Okay. You can, yeah. But she matches the family now. It's just me.
Let's have another story.
No, she matches everybody but me. Okay. So you can look at it by chromosome, and you can see up here I've got colors, and so I've attached colors to each one of the most recent common ancestor, and that's going to carry forward to my chromosome browser that I'm going to show you in a few minutes. Now, when you put ancestry information in, oops, here's ancestry. Here's my ancestor list that came in from GEDmatch, and that's what it uses in order to do your in common with matches for ancestry. But this is the screen that you look at most often, and of course I don't have anybody up here. I'm just going to put in Gann, because we're all interested in Ganns. And what it's going to do, hopefully, is it's going to give me a list of everybody within the database who has Gann in their name that I match. Okay. Now, I can search by name. I can search by if I know their email. I can search by a surname. I can search by an ancestor. Say I want to do, James Wiley Watkins. I can put that in here, and it will search for everybody who has James Wiley Watkins in their tree, including ancestry. So lots of stuff. Family locations. So let's just pick somebody here. Let's pick, I could pick on Dan. I always pick on Charlie. Here's Charlie. Here's his about screen. You can see there's his name, and there's all of his information. He has a 23andMe profile page. There's his email. I think that's his, is that your birthday?
1937.
Yeah, that's your birthday. I can put notes in here about, I think our ancestor is XYZ. I can put research notes in here.
I don't see his girlfriends in there.
His girlfriends are not in here.
That's good, isn't it?
There's not enough room.
And so Charlie, over here on the source key, Charlie has tested at 23andMe, so I have 23andMe data. I have family tree information for Charlie, and I've got genome, or GEDmatch data for him. And so I can kind of keep up with this. If I send an email out, I can make a note here, send an email. This program will automatically generate a pre-formatted email to go to your matches. And since you have their emails loaded into the program, it's really simple to keep track of all of those. And this, shaking your head, this would be great, right? Okay. Then here's my family comparison. And so what they've done is, and Charlie didn't use the most late version of his GEDmatch because his locations aren't right, but that's okay. Here are the surnames that are in his GEDmatch, or GEDCOM. These are the surnames that we have in common. And then sometimes it will give us it'll give us a hint on an ancestor. So there's a lot of information here. This information comes up for anybody who has ancestry data and you've loaded their tree information. So that's kind of cool. Here's our DNA. Okay, so Charlie matches us. He matches me on 2, he matches Teresa on 5, he matches me on 7, he matches Teresa and me both on 8, although in different locations. And then he matches Teresa on 10 and 17. And so if I, let me see. Over here, if there were overlapping segments, and I'm kind of surprised, here, let's look at 7. Oh, well, that's pretty short. Somehow it's not showing everything. But here are the people who have overlapping segments with us. And here are our here's triangulated. This is from Teresa. This is a triangulated, a triangulated segment for Charlie. So, you know, I don't know how you began to keep up with all that information that you did for your lines, but something like this, where you can go either by chromosome or by name or by family connection and pull up those matches, is really wonderful. The other thing I really like about this, and my time is probably gone, is I don't have to rerun GEDmatch over and over and over again. I run it once, I download it, boom, it's there. All I need to do is update it. And I, you know, when I first started doing this, I ran GEDmatch reports over and over and over again.
So that means each time you have a new match, you just update and it brings up.
You know, I usually do it once a month.
Right.
I don't, you know, I don't spend as
But I
much.
mean, all those new matches, if you just update, those will
Right.
come in. So
Right.
you don't have to go back and
Right.
reload.
Well, the whole file comes in.
Right.
Or you could do, if you wanted to, you know, there's a green, if you remember your new matches are highlighted in green, I could go in and do a individual one-person load for each one of those new matches. But it also takes X downloads, so that's good. So once you figure out who this person is, you can tell it that it's either a maternal match or it's a paternal match or it's both, because we have both. And I can assign a group to it, and there's my family groups, Brakefield, Clarkson, Ferrier, Gann. And that's really arbitrary. You know, I could put Charlie in many different family groups because we got a lot of surnames that we share, but I kind of put him all in the Gann one. So here's my segment map that I finally came up with. It didn't come up. I wonder why it's not coming up. They have updated this program. Where's my map? But I do have a segment map. I just don't know where it's at.
You got my name.
That's why, because I put it in.
There you go.
There we go. There's my map. Okay? And the first thing I did to do this was I indicated that Teresa and mine most recent common shared ancestor were our grandparents Elvin and Clara Gann. And I identified every one of those chromosomes that we matched on every one of those segments as a Gann match. As I learn more about that match, if we take it back in time based on testing, I can go in and change that as I move back in time. Does that kind of make sense? So all of the matches for Gann are these navy blue matches. Those are most, well, those are a combination. I've got some matches from Amanda Post and some other people that are Ganns who are purple. The other big match that I've got is my first cousin once removed on my Silkey side, and so I've got a lot of colors assigned to him. He's right here, and so all these aqua purpley ones are him. So, and you know, I've got O'Bannon in here, I've got my Watkins line, my Richardson line, you know, and I may be crazy, but I think that's kind of fun. So, you know, I love this program. Anytime I go in here and I look up GEDmatch numbers, if I can't remember a kit number, rather than going to GEDmatch. You know, you can't search in GEDmatch for a person. I know you know that, but you have to run one-to-many matches and look through it to find that person. But this, I can't. I can just put their name in. If I put Charlie in, then I automatically can look and get his GEDmatch kit number. And I don't have to keep all those lists of all those numbers. So questions? But the setup is difficult. Now, I did give you some links about that. And the main one is there's a Facebook page called Genetic Genealogy Tips and Tricks. It's Blaine's Facebook page, and they have been doing a step-by-step description of how you import these data, and they're doing it in really small chunks. Like the first time they set up the profile, and then they downloaded, one set of matches, and they did another one and another one, and then now they're kind of telling you how to use the data. But I had some false starts with this. There were times I had to delete the database and start over, and that's not a lot of fun.
What kind of false starts, Kay? Like what? Give us a for example.
My data didn't go in. I mean, it was,
That's the most common.
Yeah.
Same issue I had.
What now?
Same issue that I had.
Yeah. It's got to be in exactly the right format. And the other thing I'll tell you is a lot of times at the bottom, it's got errors and say error numbers. Ignore those. That's a really fluky thing with the program. It doesn't mean that there are errors. It'll say like triangulations added, then you know that it's in there. So I don't really pay a lot of attention to the errors. You can run an error log and see why a certain person didn't get in the database, and usually the data's blank, or it says anonymous and it doesn't know who to match it to, stuff like that. Let's see, what else? Trying to think.
What was the Facebook page?
It's called Genetic Genealogy Tips and Tricks. There's also a Facebook page for GenomeMate Pro, and the two developers for the program run that page. And if you have problems with it, just put a quick note in, and they will get back to you almost immediately. Same way with DNA GEDCOM. I had some problems with that program. I contacted them, and within 2 hours I had a response. And we worked through the weekend. I mean, they literally wrote me back and forth on Sunday, helping me get one of my downloads done. So most of these are, they're kind of, they're just people like us who really enjoy doing it. So they're very responsive. But I really, really like this program. It's worth the investment of time. I think one of the big decisions you have to make before you go into it is, am I going to put ancestry data in there? For me, with my 30-some thousand matches, it takes about 2 days. And, do I really want to spend 2 days of my life with my computer running, downloading matches without segment data? I'm not totally convinced of that. But if a person has put their data into GEDmatch and they've put their tree into Ancestry, it will link that tree to that segment data, and that's the only place that you can do that. So yes, in a way, it's worth putting the 36,000 names in with the million tree ancestors in those trees. But on the other hand, it is such a time-consuming project. But I'll show you here.
You have to sit there and watch it, or?
No, I leave it, but it just runs forever. See, I've got 43,000 matches. That's a ton of matches. I guess I have over 100 Gann matches. I easily would have over 100. I don't know if the Ganns just have tested.
And this one, it's free, right?
This is free. All of these are free, except if you move into kind of a higher level of information. DNA GEDCOM charges for some of their program, but not all.
Yeah, the JWorks.
JWorks, there's a charge for that, and of course the Tier 1 utilities for GEDmatch, which personally I think they're essential.
Well worth $10.
Well worth the $10. And I really didn't spend any time with GEDmatch. There's so many resources available on how to use GEDmatch that I didn't spend too much time with that. Any more questions? Yeah,
I got a comment about ethnicity.
okay.
Northern Europeans, the Baltic area. I know I have 10 cousins in Poland, for example. I'm Polish. Out of those 10, only one is wealthy enough to spend the money to do any type of DNA testing. So where do they get their database from? If most of the people in Northern Europe, Eastern Europe are, not well off at all, can't afford to do the testing, where are they getting the information from?
They're being done by scientific institutions, like Brian Sykes, who has a budget for doing testing, and so he'll go out and do, these small villages with basically university funds. Spencer Wells has collected DNA all over the world, so that's where those reference populations are coming from, mostly scientific studies. And I think that they're better. What now?
I think Nat Geo had a big one too.
Yeah, Nat Geo. That's Spencer Wells' group, Nat Geo is. Yeah, it's fascinating once you get into it, and there are lots of levels of it. You can do it on a real simplistic level, or you can really get involved in the scientific side of it. That's it? Okay.